In this video, I'm going to take you through how you can use the Mega Report to see trends in your business and ultimately forecast the performance of your team in weeks to come. So I'll head over to the Mega Report, and what I can show you here is that I've created a custom view, just picking out the metrics that I want to look at that can help me with forecasting forward and having a look at the business trends uh, that all kind of flow through into revenue and booked hours. So if you want, you can have a quick pause of the video, have a look at the metrics that I use and set up a similar view for yourself. Otherwise, yeah, you can obviously look at anything else that you want to or sift through the advanced view. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump through into weekly view because what I want to do is measure the performance on a weekly basis because obviously in allied health, a lot of the trends in the business work on a week-to-week basis. So what we want to look at here is how is the revenue flow of this example company going? And to go back a fair little way, obviously throughout the Christmas period, you can see here that there's a few public holidays that are going to interrupt the usual flow of things. But yeah, so getting stuck in, you can see here that I've got booked hours. Now, booked hours, by definition, is the total duration of all practitioner appointments, including cancellations and DNA. Really important to note that. The only thing that effectively should be able to change your booked hours as time moves forward is if administration or any part of the team actually physically move an appointment from one time frame to the next. So what that means is if on your practice management software, instead of canceling and rebooking an appointment for someone who cancels or did not arrive on a certain day, they simply move the appointment. Unfortunately, the practice management software doesn't give us adequate information to let us know that, and so the number will drop. Outside of that, this number should really not decline at all over time. Should be capturing all of those cancellations in DNA. Now, you may ask, why is that important? So, what's important is to see the booking trend over time, because obviously the only things that can decrease that number or create the difference between that and booked hours minus cancellation and DNA, which, as the explanation explains, it's a total duration of all practitioner appointments, not including cancellations and DNAs. Please be aware that this number will regularly change for current periods as cancellations come in and new bookings are made. So the difference between your booked and your booked hours minus cancellation is effectively just your cancellations, which is a performance-based metric. So what we want to see is, how does the performance during and leading up to a week affect the trend of the business? And how can we kind of forecast what that looks like based on numbers that we can get into the future? The last one here is build hours, and build hours is effectively the difference between booked and billed, is either unpaid, or as you can see here in this example, it's DNAs or cancellations that are still booked. So they are billed, sorry, by the administration team. So late cancellation fees, etc., etc. So what we're trying to look here is to predict the future. We'll start with the hours because obviously hours multiplied by your revenue per hour equals your revenue. We can see here that there's a roughly about, what are we looking at? About a 150-hour difference on average between our booked hours and our billed hours, or booked hours and our booked minus cancellation and DNA. So, I mean, it may change a little bit over time. Performance may get better. Public holidays and Christmas festive seasons are obviously going to throw into the mix. And sometimes, even coming into the new year, we can see a new trend form. In our case, it's not, or this case, it's not really showing that. It's going back to about 150 hour drop. You know, we had a good week this week, but roughly about a 130 to 150 hour drop. So the reason that's important is obviously when we're going forward and trying to forecast. So you may be wondering why all these other numbers are sitting here, all these other rows are sitting here. They'll come into the story in just one moment. So if we're in the week ending the 25th of Jan, we can see here that the booked hours is climbing up above the booked hours for the weeks previous, or especially within the new year, which is great. That means that we're getting more appointments and more hours coming into the business than what was in the previous week, which means that either people are coming in more frequently or the number of people coming in is greater than the number of people not coming in or leaving the business. Now, when I say leaving the business, that's the assumption that people are coming on a weekly basis. That's not the case of every business, so you need to be mindful of that. But the key thing that we want to be looking forward, because this video is all about forecasting, is what do the booked hours say moving forward? So what they say is obviously not a great picture. We can see here that from 546, it drops down to 467. So now we need to kind of understand, okay, well, what's the current flow of the business? Are we booking week to week? Are we looking at a system where team members are at the end of their booking periods and they've got to rebook another whole section? Doesn't suggest so, because obviously the numbers are continuing to drop over time. So what I want to do if I'm managing this business is make sure that that's the case. I want to see that this week I've got a lot more appointments that is their last appointment this week, so I can ensure that I'm catching up and making sure that I've got the opportunity for these clients to be rebooked. Also, probably going to have a conversation about booking week to week with our clients, because that's not something I would want to see. But in some cases, that's the way business rolls. So that brings me to this no future booking row. So no future booking, you can see here that the solid number is those who have been invoiced. So there's 12 people that have been invoiced in the week of Jan 25 that have had their appointment, been invoiced, and have no future bookings in the diary. So this is something that I'd obviously want to chase up and look into with the practitioners of each of the locations to see why and ensure that this is something that we would want. And you can see that within another video within the practitioner report. And simply, you could click on this, go into the comments section and see if they've left comments. If they haven't left comments, you maybe want to chase up on them and ensure that they are leaving reviews and telling your team why these guys are not following or have a follow-up booking. Back to forecasting though, we can see here that there's 87 in brackets. Now that means that there's 87 clients, including the 12, as you can see here, 18 and 18, that have bookings in the diary but haven't yet been billed and don't have future bookings. So in those cases, we have 87 minus 12 opportunities with people with their appointments left in the diary for this week that could still follow up, obviously, and get future bookings. So if we take 12 from 87, obviously we end up with 75. I hope I didn't make a mess of my math there, that we could assume that are potentially going to get rebooked. So we could add 75 to 467, and that would kind of give us a bit of an idea of what this number could look like based on the current clients in service in the business. Now, I don't want to over exaggerate that too, because this is where we have to look at trends. You can see here prior to Christmas or the end of last year, our no future bookings were actually around this 45, 33, 37, a lot higher. You can see coming into the new year, we've got a decrease in those numbers, which is fantastic to see. It means that people are getting booked in on their plans. But to predict that we're only going to get 12 is probably a little bit of an exaggeration on the performance of the team. So you may decide you want to go somewhere in the middle. You might want to go with 18, which is what they achieved last week, or 23 the week before. Or maybe you might want to go, let's play it safe and let's predict about 30. Because you can see here that we've had some weeks in the 40s. If we've got some weeks in the teens, let's take a nice even, neutral zone. So 30. So let's take 30 then away from 87. And so with that, we end up with 57. So let's add 57 to the 467, which gets us to what, 524, 525 roughly. So we're getting up there, but we're not quite going to beat this week. So you may ask, what next then? All right, so what next is how many clients are we booking in on a week-to-week basis? Today is actually the beginning of a Wednesday within this week. So we've got all of Wednesday, all of Thursday, and all of Friday to still bring in new clients that could potentially come through into the following week. So to check what that looks like, we've obviously got 24 additional clients booked. So to look at the definition of additional clients booked, this is the sum of all new clients and returning clients booked within this time period. So not seen, booked. This is the activities of the sales and admin team. You can see here the leads are a little low, this week. So it's probably worthwhile checking in with the marketing team and making sure that all the marketing are bringing in adequate amount of clients for them to call. And the last thing we want to do is obviously look at the additional client booking delay. So you can see here that our average has been around the 7 mark, but we're cranking up. Those numbers are getting a little high. So what I might want to look at there is the utilization rate as well. Look into, do we actually have enough space in the diary to be booking these clients in? If that's low, obviously it's going to leave difficulty for the practitioners, the admin team, to book clients in diaries, because literally there's just not enough room. Oh, that's build hours utilization rates. That's obviously not going to show space in the future time, but you get the gist. I can look up utilization, utilization rate, bring that one in. Let's have a look here. And you can see that utilization is climbing, which means that it's going to be hard to find white space in the diary. So that may mean that we need to hire. It may mean that we need to come up with some sort of strategy to enable people to get booked in. So with that, let's assume that we get a similar booked hours to last week. You can see here that we are averaging around those mid 40 ranges. So let's assume that we're going to get another 20 in. And let's be a little optimistic and think that we're going to get these guys in within a 7-day period. So that means that we're going to get people in from Wednesday to Friday following week, which may be tough with that 93 utilization rate. But let's assume our management team is really onto it. We've got some part-timers and casual staff that we can kind of increase their scheduled minutes, or we know that the cancellations come through, as you can see here, at around about that 20 to 15 to 20% mark, and we're only at 7%. So we can expect another drop, of cancellations to come through. So maybe we're going to look at double booking, putting people on wait lists, etc., etc. But let's assume we get another 20 odd clients coming in. So that means that 525 odd gets up to about that 545 mark. So that means that we're climbing up now towards this week. So it makes us look and feel a lot more comfortable about the performance of the team. And not to mention some of the little sneaky appointments that we're probably going to book in the same week to come in on that same week. So that's how I'd use these data, looking at previous trends, looking at previous numbers, to see whether or not we're going to climb and hit our hours booked. And obviously, the last thing to kind of note there is, how's that cancellation rate? Is it upward trending? Is it downward trending? We're getting a bit of a mixed message here. Obviously, coming into the new year and going through festive seasons are always difficult to kind of judge. But let's assume that we're running relatively on track around that 20% mark, so we can see then that our trends are probably running on par. Last thing to look at is our rev per hour. So is our rev per hour staying stable? Is it going up? Is it going down? And the great news is we can see a slight increase over time. Now we're hitting into the 170 marks in terms of our rev per hour. So if we get the hours, it looks like we'll be able to get the revenue coming in, and effectively the hours are obviously also a product of the amount of clients. So love to see getting back into this unique client marker down here, getting those clients booked in on good plans, and see that through into the future. That's how I would use the Mega Report to forecast future numbers.